Hi, everybody, and welcome to my first author interview. I am so excited about this, and who I'm going to be introducing you to tonight is a very good friend, Natasha Rosewood. And the reason why I came up with this group, I put this group together a little while ago, over a year ago, and it was because I wanted to share in this group things that were that touched my heart and things that were important and ways of making a difference where I could invite my friends in to see, to learn, to experience. And one of the other things that I wanted to do was every month I wanted to introduce an author and just put them in the spotlight to share what they're doing and all about their work. So this evening, I'm really excited to introduce to you, some of you probably know her from the Sunshine Coast, Natasha Rosewood. And I love this woman. She is amazing. So I'm going to read her bio here. And it's Kelowna-based and internationally acclaimed quantum healer, spiritual coach, author, spirit medium, ghostbuster, workshop facilitator, screenwriter. Natasha Rosewood empowers her clients through developing their own intuitive intelligence to clear emotional blocks, follow their bliss, and achieve their greatest success. And I, on a personal level, have had readings from Natasha, and they're amazing. And yeah, she's really good. Her metaphysical books, I think I'm psychic and you can be too, or I thought you were dead, and other psychic adventures, and mostly true ghost stories. This one is awesome. I love it. And which teaches us that we all have access to higher intelligence, intuition. All her books encourage us to access that intelligence, making for a new reality. And you can also book a private reading, past life regression, or visit with natasharosewood.com. And I'm sure we'll put that again throughout, where you can actually reach out to Natasha. And she does an amazing job. I'm so thrilled to have you here, Natasha. Welcome.
Well, and thank you, Stephanie, for that wonderful introduction. I'm so excited to be here too, because I normally do the interview, so I love being interviewed. And of course, I always love talking about my books and my other services. So thank you.
You're so welcome. It's my pleasure and honor to share this with you and to support you in your journey. So why don't we get started? And I'm going to ask you some questions, and you just answer away whatever comes to mind. And I know that what we're sharing today will touch many lives. So I'm really excited about that. So let's start with the first question. And the title of your first book is, I love saying that. I think I'm psychic. Was becoming psychic for you something that you wanted to do?
Well, it's very interesting because I was only fascinated in metaphysical things. What made people tick, energy, how other psychics could see, astrology, I Ching, numerology. That's all I read about. And every time I went to see a psychic, they'd say, "Oh my God, you're so powerful. You're going to be a famous psychic." And I went, "No. I'm going to run a business." And so to answer your question, no, I love the topic, but I didn't want to become a psychic. So there you go.
Oh, right on. Well, I'm glad you did. And the subtitle, "And You Can Be Too." So do you think everybody has the ability to become psychic?
I absolutely do. I think we've all born with intuition. It's like we're animals in the jungle, and we have our spidey senses. We can sense when there's imminent danger. So we've all got that going on, and that can be developed into a psychic ability. And I've been teaching that for 20 years, which we'll talk about later. But I've seen some natural psychics. The naturally gifted ones are the ones I found who have gone through very traumatic experiences when they were young and or they lived in highly dysfunctional environments. And sometimes that psychic ability has been passed down. But it's just like being able to sing or dance or write. When I first started writing my books, I needed a lot of help. I needed a lot of training and fine tuning. And that's what I do for my clients when they either come to the workshops or we do private coaching or they're going to participate in my online course. So the answer to that one is yes.
Right on, right on. Yeah, it's funny. I've actually I've noticed the past week, I'll be thinking of my daughter and the next thing I know, the phone rings and she's calling within minutes, and it's so bizarre. It's so bizarre. That's happened a few times, quite a few times recently. So, it's funny how you just, you all of a sudden you start noticing it.
Well, I'm going to say this too, Stephanie, and I know we didn't discuss this before, but the electromagnetic energy on the planet has been increasing since about, I think it's been increasing for a long time, but now it's really taking off. And this electromagnetic energy is speeding everything up, amplifying, and it's actually playing with the gamma rays of our brain and making us all more psychic. So you're not alone in this. And so if you really open up to that and go with it, you can be as psychic as you want right now, because it's an exciting time to be on the planet with these changes, although it doesn't look like it right now. So you probably notice that a lot more people are starting to become much more telepathic.
Yeah, awesome. So what has this response been for this book that your first book? I know for myself, I can't put it down. I love it.
Well, thank you, Stephanie. And, that's been the actually most common response. Loved it, couldn't put it down, Natasha. But some of my other favorite ones is one person said, Natasha, I'm suddenly psychic since I read your book. And I went, well, that's good. That's kind of the idea. But, what thrills me is people come to me and say, I don't read, Natasha. I don't believe. Or I'm a teenager, I'm a non-believer, I'm an old person who doesn't really care about this. And they've read the book and they've loved it as well. And they said they couldn't put it down. So to me, that's a great sign that I'm not saying I'm a brilliant writer, but some people said that. But I've had brilliant editors who have made that text and that topic, which is very difficult actually to bring down from these concepts and put into words in our three-dimensional experience here. I had tremendous help with that. So I thank them as well. And I'm thrilled.
Right on. So you've got another book coming out, a second book. It's called I Thought You Were Dead and Other Psychic Adventures. What's that one about? Because I can't
that book actually came well. And by the way, Stephanie, you say that thing. I might hire you just to repeat that. I Thought You Were Dead actually came out in 2009, and that was kind of a sequel to the first book. The first book is about how I became a psychic, although reluctantly, but now, of course, I love it, and I'm very honored to be doing the work. The second book, I felt people needed to, I was telling these stories, and people loved the stories, so I thought, okay, I'm going to put those in a book. So there's 20 stories in that book of my personal and professional life. But those stories are more about the spirit realm. So what happens after we die? What is our cellular memory? How we carry our traumas forward from past lives into this lifetime, and then how we can heal that by going through a past life regression, for example. I talk about animal spirits and ghost busting. And one of the favorite stories from that book, I think, was when I was in Halifax in Nova Scotia, and I actually saw the ghost of John A. Macdonald.
Wow.
In this very old pub/hotel right on Barrington Street in Halifax. And I didn't know it was John A. Macdonald until the woman said, she pointed to a photograph and she said, "Oh, is that who you're seeing?" And I went, "Oh my God, isn't that you know who?" And we said yes. And I also picked up on the ghost of his daughter. And it was just very fascinating. So that's in that second book. And it's a good read. And then after the stories, I also give the little, I don't like to call them lessons, but, instruction. I call them Dear Natasha letters, where people ask the questions. And I'm just answering the question so that they can learn and become aware of consciousness and their own spirit.
Right on. Well, I look forward to, I know I read it a long time ago when I got it from you. I think it was like, 2014. So I'm going to reread it again. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. An autographed copy.
Of course, darling.
Yeah. So is the Mostly True Ghost Stories, is that also a book about teaching, or is it just like a good read?
Well, Stephanie, I started writing this book first, and then I kind of put it on the side, and I thought, no, I need to really explain to people how consciousness works. So then I did I Think I'm Psychic. So Mostly True Ghost Stories became my third book, and by then I was just having fun with storytelling. But these 10 stories are based actually on real events, and what I've done with them is just fictionalize them. I've had a bit of fun with them creatively to turn them into really good storytelling. But what they do within the story, I kind of play with the dimensions, because most of us are aware of living in this very physical reality, this three-dimensional world, as we call it, and what we see, we can believe. But what I want to do with people is say, believe first, and then you can see, because we live in a multi-dimensional universe. There's a spirit realm, there's a dream world, there's lots of planets around, there's lots going on around us. So there's a UFO story in there. There's a time warp story in there. It's kind of a bit like the Zone. What was it called? Sorry,
Twilight Zone.
Thank you. The Twilight Zone. They're a bit Twilight Zone-y kind of stories. And I have fun messing with people's heads, I like to say. Yeah. But people love these stories too. And because I was a flight attendant, some of these stories are not just in the US or Canada, they're in the UK, in Europe. So that makes it a bit more interesting as well. So I think people have really enjoyed that book too.
Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to rereading that one. So let's go back to I Think I'm Psychic. So in the first chapter of I Think I'm Psychic, you talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly psychics. How do people find good psychics?
It's kind of tough, Stephanie. And the reason I wrote that chapter is because so many people were coming to me that had been to see what I call bad and ugly psychics. And what I mean by that, I don't mean they were physically ugly, but they were people who said, oh, you've got cancer, or you're going to be in a car accident, or you won't live a day past your 40th birthday. And I was kind of fed up with those psychics for saying that and damaging these people and terrifying them, because those clients would come to me and I would spend the first reading just kind of de-traumatizing them from the first psychic. Yeah. And plus, they give the real healer psychics, which I consider myself to be. I'm more of a spiritual healer. I'm definitely not a fortune teller. I see what people's potential are, and then I say, hey, you know what? This is available to you. And if there is negative news in the middle, I'm going to say, you don't want to go down that path. You want to do this. And here's the tool to get that. So what I recommend to people is ask for a referral for a good psychic. And don't be afraid to ask the psychic the question, will you tell me any bad news? And if you do, how are you going to tell me? Because some psychics will go, I'm going to give it to you straight between the eyeballs. You want to avoid those people like the plague, in my book. If you like it like that, that's up to you, right? Yeah. But just don't be afraid to ask that question and get referrals from friends and ask the names of their clients and see what their experience has been. I have to say, 95% of my clients come to me from referrals, so I feel very good about that.
Yeah. I mean, I've had readings through the years, like a long time, like past since I was in my 20s, and so far, like before they were good. So I'm grateful for that. But again, it came from a referral. So you got to try different things and experiment.
Exactly. Pretty cool. Yeah. And just protect yourself when you go in there, just to make sure and know that it's just a potential. Any psychic reading is just a potential. It's not guaranteed. It's not written in stone.
Yeah. So you tell some of your life stories in the book that are hilarious, intriguing, traumatic. Some of them are just like you just don't want to put the book down because you're like, it's really next, and
Yes.
and as examples of how we attract people, place, and events into our lives according to our consciousness. So which event do you feel has had the biggest impact on your psychic abilities?
Well, my standard intro is, if my mother hadn't been psycho, I wouldn't be psychic. And sad as that is, it's true. And, I was one of those people, again, that was in a very dysfunctional home life. And, my parents were products of the time. My father was a post-war soldier, basically, with very little emotional training. And my mother was very damaged, sadly, very bright, very beautiful, but very damaged. And I think when she kind of, what I call, went crazy when I was 17, I didn't understand anything. I felt helpless to help her. And I wanted to understand. And so I just started reading anything I could, the problem pages in women's magazines, numerology, I Ching, the horoscopes, astrology. I wanted to make sense of the universe. And I wanted to make sense of why this thing had happened to her and why it was happening this way to us, and why some people were apparently lucky and some people weren't. And I knew there was some kind of rhythm or plan to the universe, but I just didn't know what it was. So that's been my life's worth of reading. And I've been reading now for 45 plus years. And now I understand how energy works and the law of attraction. And it's basically what we think that draws that to us. Plus, it's before we came into this life, we agreed already to this kind of script, this movie script. And I had agreed, although I didn't know this, and I could have had a V8 and stayed home, I'd agreed to be my mother's daughter. And she'd agreed to be the bad guy, and I was going to get this lesson. So it kind of turned the negativity of that on its head and went, oh, okay, so now she's my upside down angel. She's my gift. She's not my curse. So, and that's what I try and do with a lot of my clients is say, okay, what's been your worst experience? Let's turn it into your best experience.
Yeah. And that's so true. Like in life, period. Like, I mean, I know I've had some major challenges and stuff like that, but it's like what you pull out of that to make it better and to make your life better, right? It's like you can't keep dragging it around with you. Otherwise, you'll never grow. You'll never advance. You'll never inspire to be that person that we were put on the earth to be.
Exactly.
And so that's great. Like it's such an eye-opening. It's just turning it, period.
Yeah.
And
reversing.
Yeah.
Just reversing.
Yeah. Yeah. So you've been teaching others how to develop their psychic abilities for 20 plus years. What are the first 3 things that people should focus on if they want to develop
well, I call it to make it simple. Yeah. I'm sorry, I missed that, Stephanie.
Oh, I was trying to read the word there.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's a horrible word to say. And spell. I try and make it simple for people. I call it BLT. So B stands for being. So when you're just being, you're not attached to any outcome. You're not attached to any judgment. You're just in yourself. You're in the present. And if you're tuning into somebody, you're just being with them. You're not asking questions or striving for any particular answer or outcome. So I call that the being part of it. The L part is listening in a loving way. So most of my work, when I'm not talking a lot, is actually listening. But I'm not just listening to the client speak. In fact, they rarely speak when we're in session. I'm really listening to their energy. I'm listening to myself. I'm listening to my inner voice. What's my inner voice telling me? What's my heart telling me? What are my feelings telling me? And I'm listening to the energy all around. But I'm listening to it without attachment. So I'm not expecting a certain answer. And as soon as you become attached to an outcome, so I'm going to give you an example. If somebody came to me and they're just really, they look very wealthy, I might make judgments about that and then attach my reading to that judgment of them being, oh, they're okay, they're very wealthy. But we never know what's going on underneath. And so for me, being a psychic is like seeing the rug and then going underneath and pulling the rug back and saying, okay, what's really going on here? And, I'm always shocked. I'm always shocked. So that's the L part of it. And then the T is trusting. And my psychic development workshops, which used to be 6 hours in length, which I've got down to like 4 or 5, and I'm going to transfer to online, is about trust. And it's about connecting to the self. And I have to say this, that when we're born, when we're we beings, we just come from the spirit realm, we're still connected to the spirit realm. And we say to our parents or to our friends or a teacher, oh, I saw my Uncle Fred sitting on the edge of my bed last night. And the parent or teacher says, well, your Uncle Fred is dead. I don't think you were seeing anything. And so we get talked out of that. And we learn to actually drive a wedge between what we're really feeling and what the outside world is telling us we're seeing. And becoming intuitive is bringing that wedge back together and going, no, I am right about what I feel. I am right about what I see. And I can trust. The only person you can trust right now, especially, is your intuition, because that intuition is coming from your spirit guides and angels. And it's that voice that speaks to you through your whole being and telling you. So those are 3 simple things you can do to begin the process.
Right on. Right on. Yeah. Like I know from my experience growing up, like I would see things and I never said anything to anybody until I went back to where I grew up and talked to the neighbor and she goes, oh yeah. Right. It's just like, because I was afraid of what people would think and say. Yes. Right. And yes. I still, to this day, all the time, there's things that happen all the time. Right. And, but yeah. You don't really talk about it because you don't want to be labeled, or.
No, and that's getting better now. I think people are opening up more. They want to know more. They want to connect with their deceased loved ones. And I just said to a client today, we can all commune with spirit if we are open. And we used to do it as children anyway. We came from spirit. We're going back to spirit. So it's just like they're in the next room on the other side of the wall. And if you think about them and kind of call them in, they will come and their voice will be in your head. And most people say, oh, I'm just making this up, Natasha. It's not real. And I say, well, make it up until you start to trust it. Because imagination can be intuition. Mm-hmm. I think it leads to intuition. And you'll know when it's true for you because you'll feel it in your body.
Nice. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that's true. Like, I get those feelings and the chills like all the time. It could be like boiling out and I'll say something and I'll just get a sheer like head to toe. Right. So, exactly. I know that they're there. You mentioned too, we were talking about this a little bit ago, that you're doing an online course for people to develop good mental health. And how does intuition play into that?
Well, specifically, I want to address teens and young adults, because I know they're going through a very tough time, especially right now. They can't see the bigger picture. So what the online course is going to focus on is teaching teens, without mentioning the P word, the psychic word, is just about energy. Everybody and everything is energy. And if we can understand the universal laws of energy, for example, like attracts like, the law of attraction, so what we think and feel, we're going to get more of. What we focus on expands. So what we believe, we can then see instead of the other way around. So those are just little things, but I'm going to be doing courses for teens. And when they feel empowered, when they feel that they're okay, that they're normal, even though they feel different from everybody, I think intuition and mental health are about connection. So we connect with ourselves, trust ourselves, love ourselves, empower ourselves. And when we're empowered, we're not going to attract bullies. We're not going to attract people that are going to push us around because we're in our power. And it's going to be a right kind of power. So when we have that confidence and we feel safe within ourselves, even though we might be alone or our parents might be getting divorced or we failed a test, we're going to I'm still okay. This is human to go through these situations. So I want to teach people really, and not just teens, but anywhere from right up to 70, people who don't love themselves enough to say, oh, I made that mistake. It's okay. I'll just pick up my socks and carry on, instead of beating themselves over their head and feeling guilty or something for the rest of their lives. And that energy gets in the way of being able to be free and live a full and happy life. I want to teach what I wish I'd known at 17. So I could have had a very different life. I maybe wouldn't have written the books, but it would have been a happier life.
I hear you. No, and that's so true. Like, I truly believe, what we think about, we bring about. I truly believe that, because there's so many people out there that are so programmed and I'm learning to open up myself also. But they're so programmed on what the thoughts of other people, their parents, their teachers, their everybody in the world, that they don't want to explore who they truly are inside and what their capabilities are. And I think this course is going to be amazing. And, they're very fortunate to have you doing this. And I look forward to you sharing that more. And I'll share it within the group also, so people can, maybe they have young ones that they want to, get involved with.
I'd love that, Stephanie, because what I'm looking for right now is a peer group to just have a conversation, and it might be on a Zoom. It doesn't have to be public. You can just be amongst ourselves, but to ask these teens, what are their issues? I'm going to have a good idea, but I want to hear it from them. Yeah. And I want them to know that I'm really listening and paying attention. And how can I take what I know and bring it to them? And, what are they ready to hear, and what are they ready to use and take in, and give them some little tools. And I like what you said, especially on social media. It should have the title, what other people think of me is none of my business, on the top of the iPhone screen, right? And I know that I wouldn't do half the things I do if I really worried about what other people think. They're going to think those things anyway. Why should that stop me from giving my gifts, sharing my gifts, and having fun and the adventure of my life? Yeah.
And I can vouch for you on that one, because you go around, you tiptoe around life, and people judge you no matter what, like whether they judge you, but they don't see what's really inside. They don't know what, and you talk about that in your book, like people, they don't peel back the onions to really see what's inside. Like, you may be putting on this front and smiling, but they don't know what's really going on, where your head is at, or how painful you may be feeling, because you're not really being yourself. You're being, what other people want you to be. And so this is going to be great. This is going to be great.
I think so. And, my mother's legacy too, she was brilliant. Like I said, she was a voracious reader. She really taught me the value of language and lots of other things, of course, that were good. But I saw in her this frustration that she didn't have the confidence. Maybe she could have been a Nobel peace-winning writer, or a Pulitzer winner, because she was highly articulate. And I just think it's so sad when people don't even try it to become who they think they can be. You don't have to be rich and famous, but you just have to have the joy of doing what you love to do. Yeah. And then you're mentally healthy.
Yeah, exactly. And like for me, like I put this group together over a year ago, and this was my goal, and I've got it on a vision board, like authors that I want to interview and stuff like that. Beautiful. And now it's come to be because I've been able to grow within myself to not care, about the outside influences, but just doing what makes me happy, because I want to share and I want other people to grow and to help them. And by bringing all these different authors together, it's a way for people to do the personal growth, the reading, what they need to do to be who they really are. Mm-hmm. And so this is great. So also in today's world, with so many of the mental health and abuse issues coming out in the open, just because of the craziness that's going on right now. What do you think could help people have a good mental health?
Well, I'd say the first thing is to look at this situation. And I know it's tough some days because it can get overwhelming. And I don't know what young people are going through. I know some of my clients, my friends are pulling their hair out. But the first thing to do is look at this situation and say, this is a cleansing. What needs to be healed is being revealed. And if you think of it, all this pain that's been suppressed in the past, that was the most painful part, was when it was in the past and it wasn't brought out in the open. Now we're just getting to take a good look at, oh my gosh, has this been going on long and we didn't know it? And so it's a good thing. And instead of craziness, I would call it, this is a revealing. This is a revealing. And now, once we bring it out into the open, we bring it out from the dark corners into the light, we can shine the light upon it and it can be healed. So let's call this a healing time. So that's one thing. I think that's an opportunity for all of us to be kinder to each other. I think that's a massive message. And especially, people who are in service, we started to appreciate the medical services more. And we started to say, hey, they've been doing that job all along, but now we're saying, really, a big thank you. Yeah. The police, unfortunately, I think are getting lambasted, but, we're just seeing one side of the issue there. But I personally know some police officers who've done some very kind things, but they're not getting any press. And I think that that's going to come out too. There's going to be a lot more of this, a lot more for women, I have to say, that's going to come to the surface. So, it's time for us to really, I want to say, step up to the plate, be responsible, fess up, and be kinder, and let's decide what kind of a world we want to live in. Let's choose our reality. And I think, if we're empowered to do that, if we empower ourselves, we empower each other, women are empowered, children are empowered, older people are empowered, whoever, we're all empowered, we can absolutely make that happen. Yeah. And I foresee that if we do it right. Yeah.
No, exactly. And I fully agree. Like this has been a time where time has stopped, where it's been a chance for to slow down, for families to be families again, to show appreciation, to I know even in my own home, it's my dad and I, and, it's given us a chance to bond and it's been wonderful, and be here for my parents. And I love every minute of it. And after this, I'm going down to beat him in a game of cribs. So I'm really looking forward to that.
Lovely.
But it's really, honestly, seriously, it's I usually sit back and look around because I really notice nature. I really notice what we have. And this has been a time for people, hopefully, to, instead of looking at the negative of what's happening in the world, is to really all of a sudden open your eyes and see what you've got. You're breathing, you're here. You've got so much, it's not about stuff, but it's about looking around and appreciating everything we have in 20,000 fold, right? And really, right? And changing it and getting out of the rut and that hamster wheel. So it's this is a time of true developing ourselves within and growing and appreciating and saying thank you and having the true gratitude for everything that we have. Yeah, for sure.
I would say gratitude and forgiveness are two big things that can really help with mental health, because, mental health is, in my experience, and I went through my own squirrely times, trust me. Yeah. And I got very, very low and was by myself. My whole family had scattered over against me, whatever. And I think it's about building those blocks, where, this is a good block. So I had a good day today, or I had a good hour. Okay. and what was good about that. And then I'm grateful for that. Forgiving the past, forgiving the mistakes. We don't really make mistakes. We're just stumbling through life trying to figure it out. I don't even like the word mistake because we're learning as we go. And if you do it 3 times, then maybe it's a mistake. But if you keep watching and observing and saying, okay, that worked or that didn't work, what did I do that was right? What did I do that didn't work for me? Then I'm going to change that and keep building those building blocks until you get to a place where you feel strong. And then when you do have a bad event or a bad day or you regress in some way, you've got that building blocks to support you, to keep you there, to keep your feet on the ground, to keep say, okay, I'm just going to focus on the next 5 minutes. I'm just going to stay here for the next 5 minutes. So, if I can do anything to support that, trust me, I will.
Yeah. Yeah. Thinking of that, I heard a quote a while ago because I listen to motivational stuff every morning. And it's like, if you have a bad hour, don't take that bad hour into the next bad hour.
Right.
Make the next hour better.
Exactly.
Right? Change
because every moment is new.
Mindset. Yeah, exactly. Right. So can your book help people with their own mental health?
Well, I think it has. I've had a lot of people who, and I don't say this was my intention, but I did want to share the story of my mother and myself in that book because it was a pretty hellish, wild time. And in England, back in the day, if I talked about my mother and said, oh my God, my mother's crazy, people would say to me, oh, you can't talk about your mother like that. How dare you? She's your mother. And I go, well, that doesn't mean she's a saint. None of us are saints. Yeah. And so when I wrote the book, I just was telling my story and I thought, I'm going to use this and see what happens. And so many people come forward, Stephanie, and said, oh my God, Natasha, you had my life. You had my mother. I had a brother like yours or a father, but a lot of mothers. And what that did for people, the daughters or the person the person that wasn't well, is it validated their experience. And just by validating and saying, oh my God, you poor thing, that must have been awful for you, can really empower somebody to go, oh, I'm okay. I'm normal. I'm not so bad after all. There's somebody out there that had my same experience. So I think in that way, my book really did validate. Also, it validated people who thought they might be crazy when they were really psychic. And that was another issue with my mother. She was very psychic. She was so scary. We didn't have answering machines in those days or email or anything. And she would know where I was and what mood I was in. And she'd call me. And if I was happy, she'd bring me right down. And if I was depressed, she'd take me even further down. Yeah. So she knew really how to manipulate my energy, and I could not get away from her. So that has also, I've had a lot of psychic people go, you know what, Natasha, I think I might be psychic. I've read your book and I have the same experiences. So again, there's that validation, and it makes people feel more solid within themselves. And then I'm really teaching through the stories, and there are some funny stories in there as well, people. Yeah. I meant it, they're entertaining. And during that time, I was a flight attendant. So there's some pretty funny stories about being in different countries and the adventures I had, right? Mm-hmm. It's also teaching them to move forward with that and not be stuck in that. So I feel it's a great book for mental health, depending on what you're going in there with and how you take it. But I've had a lot of readers say, oh my God, you did this for me, you did that for me, you saved my life. And there was another gentleman who didn't believe in an afterlife. So this is slightly different, but he was terrified of dying. And he read my book and he sent me this long, beautiful letter, which I can't find in my computer anymore. But he said, oh, thank you so much, Natasha, because you've taken the fear of death away from me. And he said, not only do I believe in it now, but I'm actually looking forward to it. Like he'd taken the fear completely gone. And I thought, wow, that's awesome. I've given him some peace around that. So if you've got peace while you're living, you're not going to be afraid of dying. You're not going to be afraid to live because you're not going to be so afraid of dying, you know.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of things in it that different people affects different people differently and gives them a sense of peace in different ways.
Yeah. Yeah. So in all your teachings that you've done over the 20 plus years, what do you want people to mostly understand about their own consciousness and how they can use it to become their best selves?
I want people to understand, and this is why my kind of logo is inspiring intuitive intelligence. I want people to understand we have this amazing mind that can do absolute magic if we set it free and we understand. It's bigger than any computer. It's bigger than any government. And when we work with a higher power that we trust in, that is, a good higher power, benign, and here to help us rise up, we could change. This could be such a beautiful world. And I believe it will be. So there's that. So the power of the mind, loving the self, loving and forgiving the self. I think that's what we all come here to do. Mm-hmm. So looking in the mirror every day, this is tough. If you don't like looking at yourself, close your eyes if you have to, but say your name. You are amazing because you are. Yeah. You're precious. You're a spark of the divine. You're a miracle that you're here. I don't care what your parents told you about being a mistake or not wanted. Yeah. We're all miracles. We're all miracles. And we've all come here with a purpose. And so it's like, again, on the third thing, going into the soul and listening to your soul. What does your soul want to express? And that's why you've come here. So those three things.
Yeah. And it's also the power of looking at yourself, or as you're out walking or driving, saying I am, like the I ams. They're so important. Like I am beautiful, I am smart, I am talented, I am prosperous. Like even if you don't have all that there, but it's about, developing that sense within ourselves to bring it to you instead of saying, well, I'm fat, I'm ugly, I'm stupid, I'm this and that. Because I grew up with people telling me that I was stupid, I was this and this and this. And through personal development, I've come to the conclusion that, are you kidding me? Like,
I know.
And I'm very proud of myself. Like, I'm very proud of myself of what I'm doing right now, because this, it's getting past that fear factor and actually going out and doing it and taking the action in no matter what you want to do, and developing yourself inside and bringing that beautiful person out.
Yeah. And Stephanie, you're a natural at this. I can tell. You're a natural. And so you're following your soul path. And that's when you come into your power. And that's exactly what you're doing. So I've had clients who've come to me and they could have been in the 60s. And I looked at them and I said, you should be writing or dancing or singing or painting. And the tears come down the cheeks, and it's really about not being a superstar in whatever you choose to do, but just doing it and seeing where it leads, because it's going to fill your whole being with love and joy, and then you're going to spread that love and joy out to everybody else. I did have a client that I don't know if I said this the other day, but she came to me and I said, "Oh, you should be dancing," and she was 58, and she wouldn't have fitted into a skinny tutu, but I said, just take up dance lessons. And she did. And she wrote this email 3 months later and said, Natasha, my husband doesn't recognize me. I've become so happy. Yeah. And so that's how it shows up. And that was beautiful.
Yeah. And that's how I'm feeling right now too, is like, I'm just feeling so happy right now because I'm doing something that I love. And that's the whole purpose of our life, right?
Yes.
And finding happy. And
love is the highest vibration, and we want to raise our vibrations now. That's what this time is all about. It's about choosing, and that's why all this stuff, all the muck is coming up from the bottom of the gas tank to the surface, so we can skim it off and say, okay, how do we fix this so we can have pure gas in our gas tanks, so we can go better, not faster, but go better through our lives.
And that again, going back to what's happening in the world, I mean, there's a reason why everything happens. And this is a way for people to slow down and find out who they really want to be inside and
it's a
share that
gift.
with people, right?
Yeah.
It truly is.
Absolutely.
It truly is. So I know from your website that you do all things metaphysical. You do palm reading, clairvoyance, spirit mediumship, past life regression, quantum healing, and of course, writing. So what are your funniest, or what have been your funniest experience that you've had with spirits?
Actually, that's going to be another book, Stephanie, but there is one story in the I Think I'm Psychic, which I just love. So it was a long time ago, but I used to live in Whistler, moved to the Sunshine Coast. So I went back up to Whistler for a whole week to do a bunch of whole readings. And a friend of mine was having a party and invited my girlfriend and I. And so it was summer solstice, but the rain came down. So I said to my girlfriend, I'm going up in the house. I'm really exhausted. I'm just going to have a little nap. So she said, oh, I'll come with you. So we went upstairs into this beautiful house. And as soon as I walked in, I felt like the grandmother of our host, her energy was so thick in this house. And I felt like all the furniture belonged to her. And I said, oh my gosh, to my friend, the grandmother's here. So I went in and lay down on the couch. And my friend said, well, I'm going to tell our friend, I'll just call him Mr. G. And she went down and she said to Mr. G, you know, Natasha can feel your grandmother in the house. Is that true? He said, oh, yes, I'm very close to my grandmother. And she just passed away a month ago and I've got all her furniture. So my girlfriend came back up into the house, woke me up. And you know what it's like when you're kind of between that sleepy, awake state. And I could see there was an armchair in front of the fire, and I could see the grandmother sitting in that armchair, and she was mad. She did not like the alcohol in the house. She was letting me know that she was fuming. So my girlfriend had a glass of wine in her hand, and she backed up to this armchair. And she said, oh, I've told, Mr. G about what you said. And she started to slide back into the seat. And I sat bolt upright and I said, don't sit on the grandmother. Of course, she wouldn't have felt her, but I could see it. And the grandmother was like, ah. So it was really, really funny. And to my friend's credit, she just sat forward. She didn't spill a drop of wine. And she ran down and said, I'm going to tell Mr. G. And so we went back down for the second part of the story. And the grandmother, apparently, when she was alive, was so anti-alcohol, she would go to a party with her husband, but she would not go in the house if she thought there was alcohol. She'd stay in the car all night waiting for him. And so that's how anti-alcohol she was. So it was pretty funny.
Yeah, no, that is quite the story. Yeah, that one, I laughed at that one. I thought that was hilarious. Yeah. So you've also got a show on Facebook called Not the 6 O'Clock News. And I loved it. I got an opportunity to be a part of that with you. And it was a blast. I really enjoyed it. And it's a place where people can get information, inspiration for a new reality. And in these interesting times, what do you think we all need to do to move forward in this new reality?
Well, I think we've got to reverse our beliefs about reality. So we go out in our day and we think we're seeing everything, we're perceiving everything, and we think that reality is actually happening to us. Mm-hmm. And I actually want to reverse it and say, no, you've gone out with your subconscious beliefs, your feelings, your attitudes, your perceptions, all your inherited stuff from your parents and your ancestors, and you're seeing the world through this kind of veil. And you think the world is happening to you. I want people to change that round and realize that from all that stuff that they're carrying, they've created the reality. And if they don't like it, they can change it. And that's what I've been doing on a daily, hourly basis as we go through this, because you probably know, Stephanie, there's lots of conspiracy theories and fear flying around out there. And I'm going, no, I know this isn't true. This is what I'm going to choose to see this. And all those people I know that are in this frequency of gratitude, forgiveness, this time's a gift, I'm in nature, aren't we lucky, aren't we blessed? They're the ones that are good and safe. And the other ones are having a horrible time. And it's like, Why would you choose that reality when you can have this one? It's
Yeah.
like switching channels on the TV. It's that simple. So that's one thing I would say is just know that you have the power within you to choose what you decide to believe and what is true for you. So choose what makes you happy, and then you will be happy.
Yeah. Right? Love attracts love, right?
Yeah,
so
exactly.
No, that's so true. That is so true. So is there a new book on quantum healing that that you're going to write?
Well, I had an idea for a book on quantum healing a long time ago, but what I've been doing with the last few years is actually writing. I used to be a flight attendant, and I've got 2 books that I'm just finishing the second one, just doing the edits, and it's called Flight of Your Life. First one is short haul, second one is long haul, and there's quite a few really hilarious things that happen in there. But I thought flying is such a good metaphor for choosing a new reality. So what I'm going to do with these books is actually turn them, the second edition, into a quantum healing workbook so that people can understand what I'm talking about when I say create their own reality. I will be talking about energy and teamwork and dynamics in families and relationships, and how we deal in emergencies, how we deal with fear, grief, how to deal with grief. That's a big one. So all those workshops that I've been doing for the last 20 years are going to be probably incorporated in those 2 books. And so that'll be an actual workbook so people can really read the story, have a good laugh, and then do the exercise that pertains to that story. Just like I did with book number 1. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I look forward to doing the workbook. That's going to be awesome.
I think so.
Every day, right? So what is the vision that you have for the future of our planet?
Well, I often say this, but in 1985, before I was really accepting that I was psychic, I went through a period of being in a trance for 4 days in and out. And I had a connection with a beautiful divine being. And they were pure joy, pure intelligence, what I call divine intelligence. And they showed me that this tidal wave would come through, that there would be a big cleansing, that there would be a division between the level of consciousness. Some would be in fear, some would be in the light. And those of the light would probably end up staying here on this planet or somewhere else, but I feel this planet, and having a long period of peace. It'd be much lighter and brighter. We'd be communicating much more telepathically, intuitively. There'd be so much creativity, and it would just be a very beautiful experience. So in that sense, it's a good time to be alive. We're in the adventure. We're going to come through the other side. It's darkest before the dawn. And I know the dawn is on the other side of this. And it's up to the individual, not whether you live in Texas or Arizona or Tuktoyaktuk, but it's your choice of your reality. So I'm inviting everyone to choose this high frequency of love and light and laughter.
Yeah.
Please, laughter. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's awesome. That's awesome. Well, I tell you, I am feeling so overwhelmed with joy right now. And I'm so grateful to have been able to share this time with you and have people here to share your book. And it is an amazing read. Like I can't wait to get back into it again. And it's, this is what this is all about, is just sharing what other people are doing to support you and support other people to help them be the best they can, right? And to grow inside. And your books do that because it opens up your eyes. Like you say, like some of the things that you've written that I've read, like it's a really personal journey that you've been on, and to share that and to share your heart and the struggles that you went through and where you are now, the beautiful person that you are now, is just incredible. And I'm very proud of you, and I'm very grateful that you were able to come on here and do this with me. So thank you this is me coming out of my comfort zone to do what I've dreamt of doing, and it only goes from there on, because there's other things that I'm looking forward to expanding and doing that I haven't had the guts to do. But now it's like, I feel like I can do anything, and
there you go. And you
So,
can. And you can, Steffi. I just want to say something about the books. They are on Amazon.com in hard copy or Kindle. But I'm also going to be introducing some packages with all my services and including some of my books in there. So people can wait to get a signed copy, or they can go to Amazon.com.
Nice. Awesome. And I highly recommend it. Yeah, I highly recommend it. So thank you so much, Natasha, for blessing everybody here today and being a part of my first author interview. And
so honored.
Yeah, what a great way to start out. So have a wonderful evening, everybody. Thank you all for being here and for joining us. And yes, thank you so much, Natasha, again.
Thank you. Namaste, everyone.
Namaste.